welcome back to Sports Hop. You already know what time it is. It's your boy Mack B, back at it, back in the building. Welcome to episode 46. And before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We appreciate all the love and all the support. I'm in the building. I got Solomon in the building. How you feeling, man?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Too blessed to be stressed, as I always say. And we got a lot to talk about. So we're going to dive right in, and we're going to start back in New York. The Jets, totally disappointing performance. They lost to the Steelers in Pittsburgh, and they're now 2-5. It was the debut of Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. He didn't really get targeted too much in last night's game, but nonetheless, the Jets have lost game number 5. They're 2-5 currently. They are not looking good in the AFC East, and Aaron Rodgers hasn't been performing at his normal high level that we're so accustomed to seeing in the past. But I'm even more concerned about the Jets defense. They're just giving up a ton of yards on the ground. Defensive line is getting dominated in the trenches. The Jets are in trouble, and I really believe, at 2-5, you got the Bills in first place. New England is New England. They're going to be at the bottom in the basement. And Miami, Tua's coming back soon. I think the Jets have a chance to possibly finish second in the division. But in terms of making the playoffs, I don't see it happening, with their schedule. I know they play the Patriots next. They got a couple of winnable games in the next couple of weeks. But if they continue to turn the football over like they've been, Aaron Rodgers already has 7 interceptions on the year through 7 games. We're not used to seeing those kind of turnover mistakes from Aaron Rodgers in the past in all the years he played in Green Bay. But I'm really disappointed, not only in Aaron's performance, but the Jets defense has kind of let them down. Davante Adams, everyone thinks that this is like the savior. He's going to come save the team, right? I don't see it happening. I mean, he's a great player. It's going to take a couple games for them to adjust, for them to get their chemistry back on the field. So everybody that's getting so excited in New York, or your Jets fans worldwide, wherever you're located, pump the brakes a little bit, all right? Because you driving right now, all gas, no brakes down to 405, and it's going to be not a pretty result, okay? So understand that it's going to take time for this to develop. I think next year there's a more promising season for the Jets. You're 2-5 right now. You're in a fairly weak division. I mean, Buffalo is definitely a playoff caliber team. I don't know about Miami. There's still some unanswered questions there with Tua's health. The Patriots are going to be in the basement. The Jets really had an opportunity this year to make a run at the division, but they're already 2-5. I think it's too big of a hole to get out of. I don't see the Jets coming back and winning. They've got basically 10 games left to play. So if you go 8-2 and you land at 10-7, maybe that can get you in as a wild card. I don't see Buffalo losing 7 games. So if they win 8 out of the last 10, I think they can make the playoffs. If they lose more than 2 games in the next 10 games, I don't think they're going to make it. I think they're done. Shout out to, the organization for trying to get some things going and get some players in and get back to square one. And Aaron Rodgers, I'm sure he had something to do with that Davante Adams trade, as much as he may want to deny it. So I'm really excited to see them reunited. I think they're going to do some big things this year, but I don't think it's going to be enough because they dug themselves such a deep hole. You got an interim head coach. Obviously, Robert Saleh is gone. You still got a defensive interim head coach. I think that defensively, they got a lot to clean up. If Aaron Rodgers can clean up, on the offensive side of the ball and not turn the ball over, granted, some of those interceptions are not his fault. Particularly that one last night to Garrett Wilson where the ball bounced off of his chest.
That was horrible.
But Solomon, what are your thoughts on the Jets' chances? Do you think they can make a run for the postseason? Are they done? And also, what do you think about reuniting Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers? Will it make a difference down the road?
Well, I think the players themselves were realistic about that wasn't going to change everything. I think what everybody else was looking at was the nostalgia of the old days of Green Bay, right? And they thought, things are going to now, we're going to have this elite passing game. And obviously that didn't come to fruition, especially after one game. Yeah. So I think people now are coming to the reality of Listen, it's not. That's not what this is about. But with regard to the team itself, there's a lot of transition, a lot of turmoil. You get rid of your coach early in the season.
Yeah.
Now you start with a new coach. You've got basically a new quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, if you really think about it. I do feel like they're going to get their stuff together. I feel like the defense is going to tighten up. I feel like this team will possibly win 6 more games. I don't see them making the playoffs simply because there are too many good teams left in the AFC. I mean, you mentioned the Bills already, but you've also got, you got the Ravens, you've got the Steelers. The Texans are doing surprisingly well.
The Colts are still in the mix.
Yeah, and then you never know what the Denver Broncos.
They're 4-3.
Yeah. So I think there are a lot of good teams. So yeah, I see them getting better. I don't see them making the playoffs, but I do see maybe them getting this team ready and set for another run next season.
Yeah, so shout out to the Jets. We wish you well the rest of the way. Hopefully you can turn things around. Stay tuned. You'll get the latest on Sports Hop. We're going to move on, and we're going to go to the Steel City. Shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin. Many people, I heard a lot of chirping going on around the league, and many people were questioning his decision to pull Justin Fields as the starter and put Russell Wilson in. First start of the year. I mean, he looked a little rusty in the beginning. I was a little bit concerned, the first couple of series that the Steelers were on the field. I think he had some jitters and he was a little bit nervous. But once he settled in, I mean, Russell Wilson had a great game. 264 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 109 passer rating. So he definitely did some great things. He didn't turn the ball over. Made really good reads down the field, especially to Pickens. He utilized the deep ball to Pickens. They stretched the field, something they weren't necessarily doing with Justin Fields, who's a great runner, by the way. But I do like Russell Wilson's play. I like his leadership on the field. He was really, really excited, especially when he got that first score. He also ran for a touchdown. It was just a 1-yard rushing touchdown, but he threw for 2 touchdowns, had 1 rushing touchdown. Played a clean game, and the Steelers dominated the Jets and really blew them out. I believe the final score was like 37-15, something like that. But they really reeled off 31 unanswered points. They were down early in the game, 15-6, and it was looking like the Jets were going to win that football game. And then defensively, the Steelers stepped up. Russell Wilson offensively made some big plays, and Mike Tomlin was doing Mike Tomlin things. So 17 consecutive seasons of a winning record, 3rd all time. I love Mike Tomlin. I love his leadership. I will never question what the hell he's doing as a head coach again. I still believe long-term that Justin Fields is the guy for the job. He's got a lot to learn. He's a young player, hell of athleticism. I love his game. He's got to work on his accuracy, particularly throwing the football down the field. But he hasn't made a lot of mistakes. He had a 4-2 record as the starter in Pittsburgh for the Steelers. So, Justin, much love from Sports Hop. We love what you're doing. Former Ohio State Buckeye. Shout out to them as well. But I think Russell Wilson can definitely lead the Steelers to some victories. They've got a tough schedule coming up because they're going to start to play teams within the division. You've got the Ravens, you got the Bengals who are trying to come back. They dug a hole earlier in the year. And Cleveland is a lot of question marks now that Deshaun Watson is out for the year. But that's still going to be a tough opponent. So shout out to Russell Wilson and the Steelers. I always thought Russell Wilson could still play when they really, ran him out of Denver, ran him out of town. I do believe in Russell Wilson. However, I do think long-term Justin Fields is the answer. But I'm not mad at what Coach Tomlin did in terms of his decision right now. What are your thoughts going down the rest of the road for the rest of the regular season, Solomon? What do you think? Do you think that Russell Wilson has the veteran poise and leadership to lead the Steelers not only to the playoffs, but possibly to win the AFC North? What are you thinking here?
Well, if you look at what Tomlin did, it shows it's indicative of the Steelers organization loyalty.
Yeah.
That team is loyal to him as a coach, and he made a commitment that Russell Wilson was going to be the starter.
Yeah.
And he got injured, and when he was healthy, they brought him in as the starter. And so they knew that was going to be a controversial decision. They knew the first time he overthrew a pass or something happened or he got sacked or whatever, people would be calling for Justin Fields, people would be booing. They knew that was going to happen. They withstood that. So I thought that was great. He did play a good game. It's always funny. He's always in that 200-something yards area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like you said, he was able to make some passes that Justin Field could make, those touch passes, those over-the-top
over the
things,
top.
all of that stuff. But the other good thing is that it did is it opened up the running game. I mean, Najee Harris had 102 yards rushing.
Yeah, great game.
Jalen Warren, 44 yards rushing. And so it made them a lot more versatile team. So, I feel like they're going to stick with him no matter what, because you have to give this man his confidence, whether he has a bad game or not. They're going to stick with him through the year. Now, the funny thing about that, you talk about long term, 35 is not old for a quarterback anymore. It just isn't, right?
No, it's not.
Now, running
If
back,
you're healthy.
If you're 30, you're done. But if you're a good quarterback, you've got a good offensive line, you can play till 37, 38 and be highly effective. And so I feel like, they will give Russell Wilson the time to continue to do what he's doing. I don't think this is going to be a one-year thing if he does well, but we'll see.
Right. And one more note on this situation, this quarterback situation in Pittsburgh. I don't think it's a bad idea if Tomlin implements a couple of plays in the red zone for Justin Fields to come in the game. Just some gadget plays like when you're within the 5-yard line from the goal line, because Justin Fields, with his athleticism and his running ability and his size, can get the ball in the end zone with his feet. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but I wouldn't be mad at Tomlin and the Steelers if you kind of do some gadget plays and throw the other team off a little bit and bring him in the game periodically when needed.
Cordell Stewart type thing. I remember that.
Well, shout out to Cordell Stewart way back in the day, former Colorado Buffalo.
Like
they used to do stuff with him, but he was also at the receiver position. I'm just talking about Justin Fields still being the quarterback, but maybe from the shotgun, doing some quarterback draw plays, maybe some read options, because he has the ability to get to the goal line, not only with speed, but with force, because he's a big quarterback. So not sure if it'll happen. Just my thoughts. We're going to move on, and we're going to go to the City of Angels. Shout out to the National League champion Dodgers. Dave Roberts proving everybody wrong, including me. Much respect to the Dodgers, wrapping things up with the Mets in great fashion. I mean, they won that final game, Game 6, 10-5. And the Dodgers bats have been heating up. And speaking of heating up, shout out to Kiki Hernandez and Edman, and who was the NLCS MVP. And, they really are doing some things behind the plate. You still got Ohtani in the mix, but you've got some other key players that are doing some things. You've got Freeman. You've also got Mookie Betts. I'm really excited to see this World Series. They're going to play the Yankees, who won the American League Championship Series. They knocked off the Guardians 4-1. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I think it's destiny this year for the Dodgers. 2024 is their year. As much as I've questioned Dave Roberts in the past, I got to give credit where credit is due. Shout out to you, Dave Roberts. You know what the hell you're doing, and I'm going to just shut my mouth when it comes to all these in and out rotation of pitchers and all these things that you've been doing, because it's been working. You've managed the game brilliantly, and the Dodgers are on the verge of capturing another World Series. I'm so excited. Game 1 is Friday, so we're going to see what happens. But I think this is going to be an interesting World Series. My pick is I think the Dodgers win this in 6 games. I think the Yankees grab a couple games, particularly when they go back to New York. But I think the Dodgers will wrap this up in 6 games. What are your thoughts on the Dodgers and Dave Roberts and how he's been able to turn things around in the postseason? Because we're not used to seeing the Dodgers make a deep playoff run. It's finally happening. What are your thoughts? Because I got nothing but love and respect for what he's been doing.
Oh, now you do. Now, I never.
I was wrong.
Yeah, I
can't front. No cap.
I tend not to. I tend not to be quick on the whole, the coaching has to go type thing. I mean, things have to develop.
But this was over a period of years.
Yeah, but
early
the Dodgers,
exits in the playoffs.
But the Dodgers have done very well over these last years too.
In the regular season, yes.
Yeah, but that's still
not in the postseason.
It's still winning games, right? So you're right. There's
but
a postseason.
It only matters really in the postseason. What you
well, they're here now, so there you go, right? So at the end of the day, it's the players that play the game. The coaches can put together the game plan, but as they say, no game plan survives contact with the enemy. So it's really up to the players to execute. This year they executed. They got the right players in the right time, and these guys have peaked at the right time, and you hope that peak continues through the World Series. It's funny because you think either way it was going to be iconic, right? It's either going to be New York versus New York or New York versus LA. I'm very glad it's New York versus LA. Of course, we are rooting for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
The Yankees are no joke. Juan Soto just showed that he was the man.
Aaron Judge.
And Aaron Judge. I mean, that is a great team. The teams are both sort of built the same way. They don't skimp on payroll. So
yeah,
you've got two marquee teams going at it. I want the Dodgers to win. I feel like the Dodgers can pull it out.
We shall see. Game 1 is a few days away, and I'm excited. Shout out to the Dodgers and Dave Roberts, the whole squad. Edmonds, who was the National League MVP for that series. So big things coming, but I love what they're doing. We're going to move on, and we're going to go to Kansas City. Shout out to the Chiefs. Dominated the 49ers yesterday, and they're the only undefeated team left in the league. And Kansas City is just, they're on the verge of a dynasty, in my opinion. I say this all the time. It's not just about the players on the field, but coaching matters. Organizational structure matters. You can't have chaos in the front office. You can't have management who doesn't know what the hell is going on. And Kansas City and the Hunt family are prime examples of organization stability, leadership, guidance. Andy Reid is one of the greatest coaches of all time. You've got the greatest quarterback on the verge of becoming the GOAT, Patrick Mahomes. He's not there yet, but he's closing in, okay? So when you got Patrick Mahomes, you got Andy Reid, you got Travis Kelce. I don't care who you're playing. I keep saying this, and I will put it on repeat again. Kansas City will be in every football game. I'm not saying they're going to run the table and go undefeated, but I do believe that Kansas City is going to make history and be the first team in NFL history to do a three-peat and go back to back to back. That's a fact. Little rhyme for you one time for your mind. So I love what Kansas City's doing, but it's the defense to me that stands out. They're ranking overall as 9th defensively in the NFL right now. They're giving up a little bit over 300 yards a game on defense. But since situationally, they can stop you a lot of the times when their opponents get in the red zone. They're not really scoring a lot of touchdowns. They had an interception yesterday in the end zone. They just come up with key plays in key situations. So I think the defense, once again, is going to be the driving force to lead Kansas City not only to the AFC Championship game, but to the Super Bowl and get the dub, right? Because Patrick Mahomes, as brilliant as he is, he hasn't had the best year, right? He's got about 1,300 yards passing. He's got 6 touchdowns. He's got 8 interceptions. And he's got a QBR of 61. So not the greatest numbers for Patrick Mahomes, but when it counts and when the game's on the line, he will beat you every single time. So I love his leadership, his playoff pedigree. Kelce's still in the mix. You've got the rookie Worthy. Hopefully Hollywood Brown can come back soon. But they still got Kelce. They got Noah Gray at tight end. They still got some, players. It's rinse and repeat for the Chiefs, because if you get injured on Kansas City, they lost Rashee Rice, I believe, for the year. They just rinse and repeat. They just bring in other players, whether they're first-year players or they've got a few years under their belt. They just bring in other players and they make it happen. Let's not forget about Nicole Hardman, who's still part of that Kansas City offense. So I really love what Kansas City's doing. At this point, they're 6-0. You've got Cincinnati struggling. They're trying to come back, and they dug a hole early. The Ravens will be viable come playoff time. But I think the road to New Orleans is going to go through Kansas City. And to go into Kansas City in January with that weather and those conditions, with the mastermind Andy Reid, and you got Mahomes, and you got some players coming back. Pacheco will be back at some point. I just think it's going to be impossible for any team to go in there and beat Kansas City. So I'm going to say it again. I like Kansas City to three-peat. I know you think I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, I know what time it is. And I just like how they're run, not only on the field, but off the field as a great organization behind Andy Reid, the Hunt family, management, the whole squad. Shout out to Kansas City. So what are your thoughts on Kansas City? Am I crazy? Am I nuts here? Because I really believe a three-peat is a highly, highly strong possibility. Not because they're undefeated. It's bigger than that. Just the way they run their organization. Patrick Mahomes making key plays in key situational moments. I just think they have so much experience, especially in big moments. I think they can get it done. What do you think?
Well, I think it's an easy call. I think, if any team is going to do a three-peat, I would think it'd be this team here. You would have thought the Patriots would have done it in years past, but every now and then somebody would pop up and sort of ruin those things for them.
Yeah.
I do like Kansas City to potentially three-peat. Now, the interesting thing is, like you said, you talked about Mahomes' numbers. I'm not worried about his numbers at all. I think sometimes he has a tendency to play down to his competition. So I feel like they're going to peak at the right time. Kelsey will come back at the right time. He hasn't been doing a whole bunch also right now, but I feel like this team will be ready for the playoffs, and they have the best chance, I think, to do it again.
We shall see how it plays out, but shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, Mahomes, Kelsey, the whole squad. Taylor Swift as well. What's up, Taylor? We're going to move on. We are going to Las Vegas. We are landing in Sin City. Shout out to the Vegas Raiders. And I'm giving y'all some love because, bringing Tom Brady in as a minority owner, he owns about a 5% stake in the franchise. I like this move not only from Tom Brady, but the Raiders basically welcoming him and Mark Davis welcoming him with open arms, because the Raiders need a change in culture. They've been losing for years. Organizationally, they've been a mess. I do like the hire of Antonio Pierce. I think he's the right coach for the Raiders. I think offensively they need better personnel, especially under center with quarterback. They need to draft a quarterback. They need to move up in that draft next year. But based on their record so far, the Raiders are, I believe, 2-5, if I'm not mistaken. They're not going anywhere this year in terms of, competing for a playoff spot. But if they continue down the road of losing games, they're going to be in good position to draft a good quarterback. We recently saw Shedeur Sanders, shout out to the Colorado Buffaloes and Coach Prime. We saw him having conversations with Mark Davis at the Las Vegas Aces basketball game when they were in the playoffs recently, competing, trying to go back and win the title again. They came up short. But it'll be interesting to see who lands in Vegas as a quarterback. But I'd love to see Shedeur Sanders in a black and silver uniform. That would be very interesting. But I think bringing in Tom Brady, he will lead by example. I'm sure he will have a voice in there. He's a winner. So when you get people on that level of that caliber of winning, coming in, maybe giving you guys some restructure, some guidance, I think it will really help the Raiders moving forward down the road and long term. So I like the move by Tom Brady. I like the move by the Raiders, bringing in a Tom Brady to kind of contribute towards being a face of the organization, even if it's behind the scenes. I just think him as a leader and all of his experience of winning, I think it's going to help change the culture in Vegas. I think it will benefit the Raiders immensely. So what are your thoughts on Tom Brady coming in and being an owner, although it's only a 5% stake? I think that will make a difference long-term for the Raiders and kind of get them back on track. What are you thinking here?
Well, unless he's going to put on the silver and black and get on the field, I don't know that's going to make that much of a difference. Number one, I think it was a purely financial decision for him. I think it's a way
Makes sense.
to get his foot into NFL ownership. Who knows where it'll go from there?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you said, the man loves to win. He knows how to win. I think he would not be able to sit back and have ownership in a team that just is consistently losing. So you're right. He will have some influence there.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see if he spends time, on the field with those two quarterbacks. Maybe there's a possibility of that. But if you really want to know what I think, he's going to have some influence on whether Antonio Pierce stays or goes. I think that's unfortunately going to be part of it. I don't know that Antonio Pierce is his kind of coach. And so, if he has any influence on the team at all, and keep in mind, this is a team that has lacked that middle area leadership, right? You've got ownership and you've got the coaches, but you've had no one in between really making those decisions. I think that's where he will make his influence known. And, don't be surprised if there's some coaching changes next year.
Well, I think a lot of that will be predicated on how the Raiders finish this year. But Antonio Pierce, Aiden O'Connell just broke his thumb. You got Gardner Minshew at quarterback. They don't really have a viable quarterback, so you got to take that into consideration. They did have a fairly good first-round pick, in the draft. They drafted the tight end, Brock Bowers. But I think the Raiders got to focus on a quarterback sooner than later. We'll see what happens and see how it plays out. Shout out to the Vegas Raiders. We wish you well the rest of the year. We're going to go back to the Big Apple, and we're going to talk about the New York Liberty. Shout out to the world champion Liberty. They won the title for the first time. Shout out to Sabrina Ionescu and Stewart and Jones. Jones captured the MVP. She had 17 points. Sabrina Ionescu really struggled offensively in that game. She went 1 of 19 from the field. I mean, you can't get much worse than that. Ended up with 5 points. I believe she had about 7 rebounds and 8 assists. Brianna Stewart also struggled, but she made 2 key free throws. She got fouled, a very controversial call at the end of the game, but she got fouled. The Liberty were down 2 at the time. She nailed a couple of free throws after missing 2 free throws previously, just minutes before, to send the game into overtime. The Liberty ended up getting the dub. They won the game 67-62 against the Lynx. The Lynx coach, Cheryl Reeve, did not hesitate to voice her concern and her frustration for the officiating. There was some questionable moments in that series, and particularly in Game 5. The Lynx only went to the line 8 times. They went 7 out of 8 from the free throw line, while the Liberty got the benefit of the rest whistle. They went to the line 25 times. Huge disparity, right? You got the Liberty going to the line 25 times. You got the Lynx going to the line only 8 times. So the Liberty ended up shooting 21 out of 25 from the free throw line. The Lynx were 7 out of 8. But that key foul call at the end with 10 seconds left, they said that Stewart had gotten fouled. They did go to replay assist, and they challenged that. But nonetheless, the Lynx lost the challenge. The Liberty benefited. They tied the game. They sent it into overtime, and they handled their business. So I'm not hating on the title, New York. Shout out to the Liberty. I'm not mad at you. Shout out to Spike Lee and the whole fan base out there in New York. Fat Joe was in attendance as well. Shout out to him. So shout out to the Liberty. Congratulations for capturing your first WNBA title. I think the Lynx have a chip on their shoulder. They will be back next year, but they did have opportunities in the end. They had a chance to win it with a shot at the end, a 3-pointer that came up short. But the Lynx are definitely a great team. They'll be back, but the Liberty made it happen. First time in team history winning the title. I couldn't be more proud of you girls and you ladies for what you did. What are your thoughts, Solomon? Do you think it was fair? Do you think the Lynx got robbed here with the officiating? Many people are questioning the officiating in this series, not just the foul call late in the game, which allowed Stewart to go to the line and tie it up. So what are you thinking here? Did they deserve to win that championship? Did they win it fair and square? Did they get a little bit of help here from the officials?
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We see this in the NBA all the time, these same controversies.
Okay.
So they're not going to go back on it. I mean, at the end of the day, even players will tell you, well, it should not have come down to one play if we had done our job. So, it's not really about that. It's one of those things that's tough to swallow on the losing side of it. But you get over it and you go, okay, you know what? We'll get better next year. Congratulations to the Liberty. Congratulations to the WNBA overall, just having a stellar season. Obviously, with the addition of Caitlin Clark and everything that she's brought to the game. You heard some things about, once she was eliminated, now no one cared and all of this. But overall, the WNBA as a league has lifted. And so I'm looking forward to even better things next year for the league.
Yeah, shout out to the entire WNBA and Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever and the world champion New York Liberty. So the league is growing. Attendance is up, revenue is up. So I'm excited to see the direction of the WNBA. Now, you know what time it is. We're going into week 8 of the NFL season. Game picks are coming up. And my record, by the way, is pretty damn good. Okay, you didn't get anything from me last week. But going into week 8, I'm currently sitting at 9-3-3. So I got 9 picks right, 3 picks wrong, and 3 pushes. So I'm doing pretty good. I got 3 games that I've been targeting, and I'm really excited. So we're going to start in the Pacific Northwest. We got the Buffalo Bills coming into Seattle. They're going to play the Seahawks, right? And the Bills are favored here, okay, by 3 points. I like the way Seattle came back against the Falcons and basically dominated that game, particularly in the second half. They had like 10 days off prior to that game in Atlanta. I think they kind of got reborn here. I think Seattle's got a lot of momentum. They're coming back home off of a big win. And I think they're going to be ready for Buffalo. I like Seattle here. In fact, swallow the +3. I think the Seahawks win it outright, okay, and win this game. They're currently 8-6 all time against the Bills. So they have a winning record against Buffalo. That's a long flight going all the way across country up to Seattle from upstate New York. I really like Seattle here. I think it'll be a tight game. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think defensively, Seattle's made some good adjustments. I think they'll limit Josh Allen and his ability to stretch the field. So I like the Seahawks here winning this game 21-17 over the Bills. So swallow the 3 points and roll with the Hawks. I like them here. They're viable. Moving on. We're landing in Sin City. Viva Las Vegas, Nevada. We got the Chiefs, the world champion Kansas City Chiefs, coming into town to play the division rival, the Las Vegas Raiders. The Chiefs are a favorite here at 9, okay? So they're favored to win this game basically by 9 points. The history of these two teams, they don't like each other, right? And the Raiders typically, historically speaking, have played Kansas City very tight. Okay, lately the Raiders have been in a tailspin. They've been losing football games, particularly at home. They seem to play better on the road. So I like Kansas City here. I like them to win, and I like them to cover that 9 points. So roll with the Chiefs here at -9. I think they cover this. I think the game may in the first half be a little bit tight, but I think in the second half with Mahomes and those boys, I like Kansas City to pull away late. I think they cover. I think the Chiefs win this game. I'm going to say they put up 28 points and the Raiders score about 17. So Kansas City 28, Vegas Raiders 17. Swallow the 9 points. I think Kansas City covers. And last but not least, we got the final game in the Bay Area. We're headed to the Yay area. Shout out to 40 Water. The Niners suffered a tough loss the other day against the Chiefs. I think they're angry. I think they got a chip on their shoulder. You got the Dallas Cowboys coming into town, coming into Santa Clara. Right now, the 49ers are favored at -6. I really like the Niners here, and I'll tell you why. Brock Purdy had a horrible game against the Chiefs. I haven't seen him play back-to-back horrible games. I think he's going to be motivated to turn things around. I think the Cowboys are a mess, very disorganized organizationally on and off the field. They can't stop a nosebleed. I think the 49ers will run the football on the Dallas defense. I think Purdy and those guys on the outside, I think Deebo Samuels will be healthy for this game. They did lose Brandon Ayuk for the year with an ACL injury, so that's going to hurt that 49er offense. But I think the 49ers are prime here. I think they're motivated. I think Dallas is going nowhere. I don't even think Dallas is going to make the playoffs. Prescott has been turning the ball over. They can't run the football. Elliott is too old. I think the 49ers will win this game in dominating fashion. I think they're going to bounce back, particularly after getting embarrassed at home by the Chiefs. So swallow the 6 points. Roll with the 49ers at home. I think the 49ers win this game 27-17 over Dallas. They easily cover that 6. So just to recap, I like Seattle at home as a dog against Buffalo at +3. I like Kansas City on the road against the Raiders at -9. They cover that and win it outright. And I like the 49ers at home to cover the 6. I think they win this game by at least 10 points, possibly more. And with that being said, you already know what time it is. It's time to bring the pain. So Solomon, let it rain! Woo! Look at that. That's a sign. You see what's stuck to the jacket here. You see what's stuck to the jacket here. You know what time it is. That means it's money time. Your boy Mack B. Episode 46 is in the books. Make sure you follow the movement at Mack B, MACKB as in boy _ at Sports Hop Media. This is episode 46. Keep it locked. Thanks for watching Sports Hop. For all the latest news on hip hop and sports, subscribe here and keep it locked. It's your boy Mack B.